This winter, let me just say it straight. I don't think we're ready. We could be stepping into one of the wildest, most unpredictable winters we've seen in a long, long time. The kind of season that doesn't just sneak up on you, it slaps you in the face, makes you check your thermostat twice, and has you staring out your window wondering what in the world is about to fall from the sky. I'm talking about polar vortex disruptions. I'm talking about Arctic air that doesn't just chill you but bites into your bones. Snowstorms so intense they can shut down entire cities. And yes, even severe weather outbreaks when you least expect them. And here's the thing that really gets me fired up. The atmosphere is setting up for something way more volatile than the quiet winters we've kind of gotten used to the last few years. This year, winter could flip the entire script. And to understand why, we've got to zoom way out over the Pacific Ocean, because what's happening out there with sea surface temperatures, that's basically the pen writing the storyline for our winter right here in the United States, and that's where the heavyweight player comes in. The El Niño Southern Oscillation. ENSO. This little system in the Pacific? It's the boss. It's the single biggest driver of what kind of winter we end up with. And it doesn't just show up in one form. It's got 3 different personalities. You've got El Niño, when those Pacific waters run hotter than normal. That fires up the southern jet stream, and suddenly storm after storm is smashing into the southern U.S. California, Texas, the Gulf Coast, it can mean flooding rains, while up north things stay milder and drier. It's like El Niño slams the brakes on Arctic air outbreaks. Then there's La Niña. That's the polar opposite. Cold waters in the Pacific force the jet stream northward, and boom, the northern states get locked into brutal, colder, snowier winters. The south gets warmer, drier, but the real punch? La Niña opens the floodgates for Arctic air to spill out of Canada and hammer the Midwest and the Northeast. But here's where this year gets really interesting. We're not in El Niño, we're not in La Niña. Instead, we're sitting right in the messy middle, a so-called neutral phase with just a slight lean toward La Niña. And that's the wild card. Because neutral years? They are absolute chaos machines. One week you're pulling out the snowblower, the next week you're outside grilling in a hoodie. Temperatures swing so sharp it feels like whiplash. And storm systems? They can get huge. Now let me take you back for a second, because the last time we had a setup this close was winter 2013-2014, and if you lived through that one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That was the year the polar vortex basically set up camp in the Midwest and Northeast. Brutal cold fronts, relentless snow, wind chills that could cut right through you. I'll never forget that stretch. It was like winter had no off switch. But here's where it gets downright spooky. Back in 2013, hurricane season was eerily quiet. Barely a whisper. And look at 2025 so far. Same story. A suppressed hurricane season thanks to wind shear in the Atlantic. The parallels are almost too close. In 2013, the East Coast got hammered over and over with storms, turning the Northeast into a frozen battlefield. That's the exact setup I'm watching this year. So what do I think is coming? I see below-average temperatures dominating the northern plains, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, places like the Dakotas, the Great Lakes, Chicago, Cleveland, Buffalo. If you live in these zones, you'd better brace yourself, because the cold we're staring down could rival, maybe even outdo, what we saw in 2013. And this time, the area impacted could be even bigger. Now, not everybody's freezing. Florida, southern Texas, much of the West Coast, you guys are shaping up for a warmer, drier winter. But don't let that lull you into thinking snow's off the table. All it takes is one system, the right alignment, and suddenly snowflakes are falling in places that haven't seen them in years. When it comes to precipitation, this year could flip the script compared to 2013. I'm expecting more rain and snow stretching across the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Northeast. That means not just cold, we're talking storm potential. Ice storms, messy nor'easters, blizzards, it's all in play. On the other hand, the Gulf Coast and West Coast, they might face another dry winter, maybe worsening drought. But here's the piece most people are overlooking. Severe weather. Fall into early winter is what we call the second severe season. You've got Gulf moisture colliding with a fast jet stream, and that's the perfect recipe for tornado outbreaks. Don't think twisters only happen in spring. November and December can get violent, fast. Remember November 17, 2013? 73 tornadoes in one day. That could happen again. So let me paint the big picture. The Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley. Absolute battleground. Ice, snow, maybe even tornadoes. The Northeast? You better be ready for nor'easters. I think big population centers could see some of their first real storms by December, and the battleground could even dip south into Texas, Oklahoma, Kentucky, surprise snowfalls in places that don't see it often. Now, from there, we start layering up. The next band is the trace to 3-inch zone. It's the land of maybe. Maybe you'll see flakes, maybe you won't. Some winters you'll get that magical morning where you wake up and everything is frosted white. Other winters, nothing. It's a coin flip. If you're closer to the edge of the snow zones, you'll get a bit more, but as you drift south, snow becomes rarer and rarer. This is the kind of place where kids wait years for just one sled-worthy snowfall. Step further north and we hit the 3 to 6-inch band. And here's where winter starts to feel real. You're not in snow country yet, but you can count on a couple of shovel-worthy events every year. Enough to remind you that yes, you still need gloves, boots, and a snow brush in the car. Push north again and the 6 to 12-inch band takes over. These folks live in the land of reliable winter. Every year without fail they get multiple solid storms. Not crippling blizzards, but real snow that sticks around, then it gets serious. 12 to 24, 24 to 36. Here, snow is no longer a question. It's a way of life. If you're in the Midwest, the interior Northeast, or the Northern Plains, you already know the drill. Snowstorms aren't an if, they're a when. This is the territory of plow trucks, salt piles, and whole weeks of life scheduled around storms. And then, the champions, 36 to 48 inches, 48 to 72, and finally, the monster zone, 72 inches and beyond. The Rockies, the Sierra Nevada, the Cascades, the snow belts hugging the Great Lakes, northern Michigan, upstate New York, and parts of New England. We're talking about towns that measure winter in feet, not inches. Where snow days aren't special, they're expected. Where digging out from one storm only means gearing up for the next one rolling in behind it. This is snow country, plain and simple. Now that's the average snowfall picture. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because averages only tell half the story. Averages are calm, neat, predictable. Real winters? They're messy. They don't follow the rules. And this year, I'm not stopping at averages. I'm giving you what I call the snowfall chance forecast, the outlook that blends the historical norms with the live atmospheric signals I'm seeing for 2025-2026. And let me tell you right now, this winter has a twist. Let's start in the Southwest, California, Arizona, New Mexico. I wish I had better news for snow lovers here, but with a weak La Nina or neutral setup, the storm track just doesn't favor you. I'm shading you with below-average snow chances. Now, below average in the Sierra Nevada still means more snow than most of the country ever dreams of, but compared to your norm, it'll feel like a lighter year. Now flip it north and east of the Rockies, and this is where the story explodes. Colder than normal air is lining up across the central and eastern U.S. And when you mix cold air with active storm tracks, there's only one outcome: snow. A lot of it. The northern plains, the Midwest, the Great Lakes, New England, you are glowing on my map with above-average chances. And here's the kicker. My confidence is sky high. I'm talking 4 out of 5, which I rarely give. But the signals are screaming December. Watch for a classic Colorado low setup. Storms rolling out of the Rockies, then blowing up over the Midwest. Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago. You are prime targets for an early season blockbuster January? That's when the Arctic air comes crashing south. True Siberian blasts funneling into the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. These places know cold, but this could be next level. Meanwhile, storms keep riding the Pacific Jet into the Ohio Valley, feeding big-time snow for the Midwest and Great Lakes. And February, oh boy. February is when the whole setup goes into overdrive. The coldest air of the season locking in across the northern U.S. Storm tracks riding from Texas through the Tennessee Valley straight up the I-95 corridor. That's a recipe for East Coast blizzards. Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, New York, Boston, circle February on your calendar. These are the kinds of systems that make headlines for decades. So when you pull it all together, the Pacific Northwest, wet, stormy, mountains buried in snow. The Southwest, dry, warmer, drought concerns deepening. The Midwest and Great Lakes, cold, snowy, blizzard risk high. The Northeast, ice, snow, and cold shots back to back. The Southeast, stormy, severe, volatile.